Kaufman Corner podcast finally going here. If you catch us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation in the live stream, which is a little late. Usually we go 9 o'clock on a Sunday, but with Game 7 of the NBA Finals, we wanted to make sure it was going to be over. I'm sure there'll be some kind of miraculous ending before we get out of here, as we both keep an eye off to the side. We're at 12 points right now, so I think we're going to be okay. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, you're like, what was this? Yeah, I know, because it was Sunday night when we do this. We've got a lot to cover. Jac Caglianone, as he found a home in right field. We will talk about that. Is there anything else Matt Quatraro can do to squeeze some more offense out of this team? What should the bullpen pecking order be right now? The Royals got a little upset. Give Rany a chance to react to the Royals being miffed, if you will, about some rumors that ownership has said that they need to start getting ready to sell. We'll talk about that. If the Royals aren't selling, should they be extending Seth Lugo? Did 1 day of rest magically solve Salvador Perez's problems? Kind of looks like it. We're talking about it right now here on the Kaufman Corner Podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes AllState Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here, Rany. How about it? Your thoughts, Jac Caglianone in right field. The Royals have watched him now hit 2 home runs in one game. They've watched him rob a home run. You ready to take your final victory lap here and just celebrate the call? Is that where we're at now?
Final? Never, Soren. I will never let you live it down. No, I mean, he's settling in. Look, it was a good week for the Royals that had kind of a flat ending. If they had pulled it out today, I think we'd really be extolling the virtues, not just of the team, but of Matt Quatraro. Again, one of the most underrated, I think, qualities he has shown is that every time it feels like the Royals are about to go into a tailspin, they pull out of it. And that happened again. I mean, they didn't just go 0-6 last week. They did 0-6 at home and then going on the road against 2 competitive teams. The Rangers may not have a great record, but they have some of the best pitching in the American League. The Padres are obviously a very good team. This could have easily spiraled out of control. They won 4 in a row. We got to see the Jac Caglianone show on Friday. But the offense went dead again. And the problem really is not just the offense, but now we're really starting to see the bullpen leak some oil. We'll get into that, but not having a healthy Lucas Erceg is really having some knock-on effects on this bullpen. But Caglianone in right field, look, the play today where he robbed a home run, in a tie game in the bottom of the 8th inning, didn't ultimately work out for the Royals, but it was. I don't want to even say it's a great play because you could be an incredible defensive right fielder, and if you're 5'11", you're not making that play, right? Sometimes all that matters is being.
I don't know. There are guys with ups. I mean,
there are some guys with ups, yes, maybe, but I mean, being 6'5" was enormous there. If the Royals had Jac Caglianone in right field in the 1976 American League Championship Series, it's possible that Chris Chambliss's name wouldn't have just caused PTSD for everybody listening to this podcast over the age of about 55. So, the point is that Caglianone may not be a great defensive right fielder in terms of, his range, his speed, etc. But having the ability to go over a fence and take away a home run, you don't have to do that very many times to provide as much defensive value as you get from, laying out and catching 10 line drives that a lesser outfielder doesn't catch. So even if he doesn't have great range in right field, if he can make plays like that over the fence and has the timing, because think about that, it's not the size that made such a difference there so much as the timing of knowing exactly when to jump. That's something some guys just can never learn. It's not a common thing for a right fielder to do. You do it maybe 3 or 4 times a year, right? The difference between nailing that timing 3 or 4 times, though, it's 3 or 4 home runs. That's an enormous thing. So,
well, I'll go a step further. I think you can, beat your drum a little louder, to be honest with you, because of that play, because everything you said is right, but I think you're even selling it short. I mean, he had a feel for where the fence was.
right, exactly.
As he crossed the track, he had a spatial awareness of how deep the track is. I mean, he had a good sense of when to go up. He high pointed the ball with a defender that was going to hit him, called the wall, right? So, like, we've seen guys that are considered to be good outfielders. Like, I'll be honest with you, I always thought that to a degree, Alex Gordon was a tremendous defensive player, but at the wall, at times he was a little bit lacking. Right, he was no Carlos Beltran at the wall, and I'm not going to say Jac Caglianone is, and maybe the sun shined on a dog's ass once, and we're never going to see him come close to making that play again, because there were so many elements of things that had to go right for him to do it, but he did it, and he showed that he's got all those elements. Can he put it together every single time that he's got to make that play? I don't know, or a play like that, but he showed a great spatial awareness. Like, I mean, I can't stress, we talk about it a lot with Patrick Mahomes and, the ability to know the safety's too deep and the linebacker's not deep enough, and I can float the ball over here, and all the different elements of things that he's calculating. This isn't quite to that degree, but there is. I mean, I was really, really impressed with when he jumped, how he high pointed it. Knew where the wall was, because there are guys you'd expect him to run into the wall before he even takes off, or to jump way too early and miss, or to be needing to look at the wall and then not being able to find the ball. I mean, it was a tremendous play. I mean, if it's a great outfielder, you expect him to do that. Great defensive replacement type outfielder, a guy who plays center, but this is a guy who's new to the spot,
right? And that's
new to the big leagues. I mean, it was really impressive.
Yeah, it's the instincts, right? I think the word, the instincts he showed there, to understanding of how to play that, right? How to do something he's probably not done a lot of in practice, but understood the theory behind it and had the athleticism. So basically, he had the ability to take advantage of his athleticism to make a catch, because he has some incredible athletic tools, obviously, a great arm, right? Unbelievable power. His sprint speed is lacking. He's not the fastest player in the world. You like your outfielders to be faster. Currently, his sprint speed is 26.1 feet per second is what Baseball Savant StatCast gives him, which is 22nd percentile. He's slower than average. Now, that number is probably artificially low, because the way they calculate sprint speed is they take your 10 fastest sprints to first base and average them. So if you've just been called up, he's probably only sprinted to first base, I don't know, 15 times or 20 times, right? So, like, the more you play, the more your top 10 is going to represent an outlier numbers for you personally. So he'll probably end up higher than that, but he's below average as a 22-year-old. He's not a speedster. And that was obviously the reason why you were skeptical of him hanging in right field to begin with. I don't think he will age particularly well as an outfielder into his late 20s. But right now, despite below average speed, he's showing the ability to take full advantage of what skills he has. And that's what today's play was, right? Like, that was a play. You don't have to be fast, but you have to know exactly where the wall is, when to jump, how high to jump, and do it all in 0.1 seconds. Like, all of us can do that given enough time. It's the ability to, in your mind, mentally figure out essentially a math equation. Where do I run to? When do I jump? All of that in, a fraction of a second, that separates elite athletes from just good athletes. And it was an elite athletic play from a guy who's just not done that very much. So it bodes well for his ability to adjust to the position and, at least hopefully for a couple of years, be an adequate defender out there and really open up a lot of options for the Royals in terms of how they deploy their offense.
By the way, that one, but this one here, faster than Kareem Hunt. Matt referencing Sam McDowell's obsession with the foot speed of Kareem Hunt over on our Red Gold Bull podcast right there. Look, the bottom line is I will say that, you got to hit, though, right? Like, that's the thing. And the hitting's going to be number one. So, I like him, and I like the idea of him playing right field. He kind of double clutched on a ball where maybe could have got somebody. I mean, that you see some of the inexperience there, like that was a problem later on. Let's go ahead and call out the negatives as well. He didn't get the ball out cleanly, and it may have cost him a play at the plate. And one run was a giant in this game, right? So, he's got to get better, or he's got to mash. And the bat is number one. And if he's not hitting while he's playing in the outfield, then you got to get him out of the outfield, because he was drafted to hit, not right. Be a defender. And like you said, he's never going to be rangy and all that kind of stuff. But when he catches it, I mean, I do think he's got a chance to throw some people out. That throw, there's an opportunity there. So I like it. I like the 2 home run game better. That's
yes, very much so. Let's talk about him mashing. You're like, he has to mash. We got to see the mash finally on Thursday, not Friday. I mean, what really struck me, a couple things struck me, obviously. The fact they both came off lefties was cool. Like, it's a nice bonus. The fact that, like, he has not shown a big platoon split. You don't have to worry about him bailing against tough left-handers. But the first home run was a testament to just ridiculous bat control, right? Because he took a pitch, the highest pitch ever hit for a home run by a Kansas City Royal since they started measuring that stuff in 2008, right? So, like, it's a pitch you're not supposed to be able to hit for a home run. And he didn't have the ideal launch angle on it, but he hit it so hard it didn't matter. But the mere fact that he was able to get his hands up high, because if you look at the metrics of his swing, his bat speed on that home run was only like 73.5 miles an hour. His average is 77.5. Like, his bat speed was well below his average, although still above the major league average, which is understandable because he had to pull his hands in and up to get to a pitch that was, almost at his neck. And he was still able to hit that ball for a home run. So the ability to hit a ball like that was impressive. But then the second home run, when he took a pitch, granted, right down the middle, was a slider that didn't slide enough. Did you get any vibes of like another Hall of Fame hitter in that moment, in terms of just how, like, the combination of power and grace and beauty in that swing? Because I mean, I know this sounds a little crazy, but I almost got Ken Griffey Jr. vibes the way he hit that ball, in the terms of he hit it with extreme authority, but there was a kind of a perfect arc. I mean, he hit that ball. It was a 27-degree launch angle, absolutely perfect, 110 miles an hour, 439 feet or whatever. But it was just like, yeah, okay, it was a cookie, but my God, he hit it as perfectly struck a ball as I've seen from a left-handed Royal in a long, long time.
The power and the bat speed and the exit velocity, I mean, all of that's there. I didn't have this existential moment that you apparently had. Now I was on the radio, doing something else. I wasn't just sitting watching the game like I would be if it were a night game. And so it was, I had a lot of things going on all at once, but I think we know it's going to go far when he hits it. The question is, how often is he going to hit it? That's the deal. So yeah, but it's easy power. I mean, Curtis has said it for a long time. Going back to when we just see video from him in the minor leagues, like, it's easy power, like that's for sure. And so from that standpoint, yeah, that it's not a big cumbersome deal and everything. Yeah, I listen, we've known that, though, right? The question is still about how often he's going to get the bat on the ball, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's getting the bat on the ball. His strikeout rates are acceptable. And then was it yesterday where Well,
I mean, get quality.
Right.
He's chasing high stuff like that. That to me was kind of the question when he hit the one that was way up high, the first one was like, okay, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Right.
Are we rewarding?
Well, that's the concern. Obviously, the good thing is that he's able to do it. Like, it's funny because I mentioned, the one down the middle kind of reminded me of Ken Griffey. The one up high, I'm struggling to think of a left-hander it resembled. It almost looked like a mirror image of right-handed, like, I don't know, Vlad Guerrero, somebody like that, where he's a bad ball hitter. It's like, you're not supposed to swing at pitches like that, but if you can hit him out, I'm like, it's hard for me to argue too much. This is the whole point. Yeah, he chases too much, but when he can do that kind of damage on a pitch he shouldn't swing at, maybe our definition of what he should swing at, we have to adjust it at times.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on that. And I've said, like, the chase rates are based upon what is a strike, not what the player can drive.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So, like, if he had, like, Vlad Guerrero is the perfect guy to put into that category because he hit a ball off the ground out of the, over the fence. It's not recommended. It's not what you want, but he was just incredibly skilled hands. And this kid's got some of that for sure. I mean, I think there are going to be times where he does go swinging at pitches that you wish he would take. And there's going to be some of that. No. Yes. The 3-pointer that's way too deep, way too early in the shot clock when you need it. And then, you made it. Yes. Like, I mean, those kind of shots, that's just what it's going to be. I don't, I'm intrigued to see him in a couple of years. Like, I think the signs are looking pretty good, right? Remember Bobby's first year, everyone was like, 275 on base. What do we got here? Remember, that's where we are with this kid. He's still just trying to figure it out.
Right. And he's the same age that Bobby was as a rookie. He's 22 years old. It's easy. Yeah. I mean, one of the best things about him getting to the major leagues as quickly as it did is simply, the difference between a guy making it at age 22 versus 24 or whatever. You can reasonably expect he will be a better player in 3 or 4 years than he is today, right? Even above the fact that he just needs to adjust to the major leagues. But this is what's happening with prospects, especially college players coming out of the draft. Players are peaking at younger ages than they used to, and it's no longer that surprising to see a guy go from the draft, from the college campus to a major league lineup within a year or so. I mean, Caglianone is not even the best left-handed hitting first baseman taken out of a college, taken off college from in the first 10 picks from last year's draft, right? Nick Kurtz, who was the 4th pick in the draft last year by the A's, is like, came in today slugging over 500, hit 10 home runs already this season since debuting before Caglianone did. And I think Chase Burns, who was the 2nd pick in the draft, just got called up by the Reds. So you're seeing a ton of players. It looks like last year's draft is actually turning out to be quite a good draft. A lot of guys from the top 15 who are already in the majors. But Caglianone, none of them have the ceiling that Caglianone has in terms of the raw skill set. It's just a matter of him figuring out which pitches he can hit and not swinging the pitches he can't. Yesterday, he walked twice. They didn't really, they wanted no part of him. Yes, it was really, they weren't, like, it's good that he took the walks, but on the other hand, most of the pitches you saw were not borderline. Like, they were pitching him 6 to 12 inches in. And he swung at a couple. Yeah, he swung at a couple, and then he finally like, okay, they're going to pitch me in. I'll take my free base. And he got on base 3 times yesterday. That was great. Today, he didn't work out, and he had some weak contact today, but there's going to be ups and downs. Is he the best option though as the Royals right fielder from now to the end of the season? I think he has proven that point. And now it's just a matter of fixing at least one other lineup spot because there's still a hitter or two short. I mean, that's what this weekend proved.
Yeah, we'll talk about the offense here in a minute after you hear from our friends at David Starnes, AllState Insurance. David Starnes, AllState Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes, AllState, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, AllState Insurance. Your favorites are back. Kansas City now for a limited time at all your KC Whataburger locations. Get the Pico de Gallo burger, 2 large beef patties, 2 slices of pepper jack cheese, Pico de Gallo, and creamy cilantro lime. How about the sweet and spicy bacon burger? 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt. Even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. Breakfast served 11 p to 11 a. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. All right, how about it, Rany? Offense, here we sit. They pound out the home runs and getting a sweep. Looks like things are starting to go. They hit a couple of home runs again in the first game of the series out in San Diego, which ain't no easy feat in that ballpark. And then here we are back looking at a team that scored 3 runs in 2 games. I do want to be clear. I mean, Salvador Perez hit a home run. There are positive signs. And so I don't want to let, I don't know. Where do you sit? Are you on board with that they're kind of coming out of it, or no, is it just a little blip on the radar?
I mean, I think they were not as bad an offense as they demonstrated for the first 8 weeks of the season, because no team in baseball is as bad offensively as the Royals were. This is, I think, a bit of a dead cat bounce, though. Like the power is just not enough, right? They're still dead last in the American League. They're closing in on the White Sox, but they're 20 home runs behind every other team. The problem is they just have like at least 2 and probably 3 lineup spots in any given day where they're just not getting any power at all. I mean, Kyle Isbell will run into one every now and then, right? Drew Waters, you would think he would hit for more power. He looks like he would. He's got 1 home run. All right, and these are your solutions right now. Those are your solutions for left and center field. Caglianone, in one night, he hit more home runs than every other right fielder the Royals had used this season combined, right? They had 1 home run total from right field. I believe that was Drew Waters' home run. But, left field isn't much better, right? Because I don't know if they had any from, I think Waters hit his 1 home run there. I think he hit his in right field, so they didn't have any from him. And I think MJ Melendez may have hit a couple out there. So 3 home runs all season from left field, 3 from right field, 2 from the Caglianone in that game, and then 5 from center. You can't win when your outfield has fewer home runs combined than, they have as many as Vinny has hit as many by himself as the entire outfield combined. And Vinny's not having a great power season. Let's put it that way. So they need 1 more bat, ideally for left field. DH will probably be fine too, except they're going to need that. They're insisting on playing Salvy there 40% of the time, which we've discussed. And it'd be nice to see him get some rest. But he got rest on Monday and came back a new man. He gets rest tomorrow.
I don't get that one. So, I mean, why give him ample rest? He clearly seems to be better with it. I don't understand. I don't got that listed for last, but we can bring it up right now because it goes hand in hand with the offense. So that to me seems like a no-brainer. And you've got plenty of guys to play the other spots. I know, but I'm looking up here. What did Drew Waters do I gotta find him because now I don't know if he had enough at bats. Everybody's a little worse when they get to the big leagues off what they were.
Mm-hmm.
But he was. I'm not sure what was he this year? Because he didn't really have that much time down
AAA. I think he hit 370, but it was like 27 at bats. He barely played. So
370, 469, 741. Right. Last year though, at Omaha, 290, 379, 494. I mean, what do I think he is? I think he's a 4th outfielder.
Yeah.
Right. But
I agree.
You don't have better. At least he can run a little, play a little defense.
Well, didn't run quite fast enough today. Although I know a lot of people giving him crap for that, but it was a hell of a defensive play by both by the center fielder, the Padres center fielder, Jackson Merrill, cutting it off before it hit the wall. If that ball gets to the wall and bounces back to the center fielder, he scores. But he cut it off and made a tremendous spin move through the ball immediately. And then Jose Iglesias Jose Iglesias is going to be like an incredible defensive infielder when he's like 50 years old. I
He's
can't
always
believe that
been
guy's
good. Yeah, he just
he
can't hit.
might already be 50. How old
And
is
then
that
today
man?
he hit against the Royals.
Yeah, exactly. Then he drove in all 3 runs. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I mean, Drew Waters actually made a hell of a slide to go around the catcher, but ultimately he still have to touch the plate, and he just wasn't able to pull that off. Yeah, I know a lot of people were upset they didn't pinch run Tyler Tolbert there. I'm sure if they knew that Freddie Fermin was going to hit a double with 2 outs and a man on first, they would have pinch run Tyler Tolbert there. But, we have it on here. Is there anything else Matt Quatraro can do to squeeze more life out of this offense?
I don't think so.
I feel like he's doing everything he can. The one thing I would say is let Salvy rest. That would be really it. Let Salvy rest. Now I think we're going to see good test case because the last 3 weeks, I think they've had a Monday off, including tomorrow. And so, fine. If he's getting 1 day off of rest at least. But after tomorrow, the Royals play 16 consecutive games, the games on 16 consecutive days. I think they have a Thursday off and then 3 more games before the All-Star break. But those 16 in a row, if he plays all 16 of them, and the history of the Royals suggests that he probably will, that is a mistake. Give the man at least 2 days in there to not play full mental and physical rest days. Like you said, they have so many options. They're not good options, but they have players on the bench for various scenarios. You have Drew Waters, you have Nick Lofton. You like to get Freddie Fermin in there. Essentially those guys are rotating. They play different positions, but they're rotating through the lineup with Salvy moving around as needed. Use those guys and let Salvy get some, treat him like a 35-year-old with 11,000 career innings behind the plate. And, you might get a better performance from everybody.
Yeah.
In that, Quatraro, I feel like with what the options he has on hand, John Rave got to start a couple of days ago, and he's a guy you want to mix in there. And he's playing defense, and he's pinch run, and he stole a base the other day. So I don't know what else you could do except get better players or get better coaching to make those players better hitters.
Yeah, and that's why I don't get the front, people coming down on Matt Quatraro. Like, I don't understand what these obvious moves are that supposedly he's missing. Quatraro's fine. But I will say this, I do think it's starting to get to him. I don't know how it works for you. I watched the game, but did you see post game today?
I did not watch. I do watch it a lot, and I didn't see today's comments.
Well, he's starting to. Today. There are sometimes where the questions are just. I'm like, what the hell is that question? That question is just awful. And to his, at some point, I think he's gonna be like, "Are you serious with that question?" He's
gonna snap.
Yeah, he's gonna snap. But he was getting real questions today about, it's what you had to ask about the lineup. But he's like, "Well, we had our leverage guys lined up." It was kind of like, listen, I pressed the buttons that you're supposed to press. And he seemed a little bit like, I mean, what else? What are you missing here? And I think it's like that with the lineup, unless, I don't know. I don't see where there's anything else for him to press. I don't. Everyone has it in their head that somehow managers can go in and flip the table over, and oh boy, that's going to inspire the guys, and they're going to go out there and suddenly hit. I mean, that's just not baseball, and it's definitely not the modern game. It's definitely not how to deal with the modern player. And I think Matt Quatraro is perfectly equipped to handle the modern player. Because you know what the modern player is? The modern player is now backed by all kinds of numbers and stats from his agency. And when Matt Quatraro comes out and has all the data from Daniel Mack and his crew, says, here it is, and here's what you need to do, and equips them, those players respect it and appreciate it. They know that Matt Quatraro and his coaching staff are giving them everything they need. It's just up to them to play, right? To reach their talents. And the question is, are guys like Nick Lofton and Drew Waters going to get to being the kind of players that they were in the minor leagues? Like, can they adjust to the big leagues and be 85% of whatever their numbers were in the minor leagues? That to me is kind of what you're hoping for when a guy comes up. If those guys, if the young guys can do that, if Kyle Isbell's minor league career says that his numbers should be better than what he's been offensively, it's just waiting for it. To which, see a topic we've had. Can he do anything? Let me just put this out there. How about, fire Alexult?
I mean, we just keep coming around back to that, don't we? So a couple points. One point I want to make, which I don't think we've addressed enough on the show. It's a simple thing, but it's actually a very important thing. The hitting environment in Omaha and in AAA in general, but specifically in Omaha and the league that they play in is much higher offense on average than the major leagues. Whether it's the nature of the ballparks, the nature of the ball, just how bad pitching is in general in AAA. There's a variety of factors that go into that.
Right.
But if you look, the average OPS in AAA is something like 50 to 70 points higher than at the major league level. What that means, obviously, is that, some of these guys come up, John Rany had an OPS over 900, right? Nick Lofton was, his OBP was like 450. Kim Devaney's down there as an OPS over 900. I do think we need to take that into account, that there's a lot of air in the numbers of AAA hitters, and that on some level, maybe they're actually not as good as the numbers would suggest. The flip side of that, which I think is why it's important to also pay attention to this, is that being a competent pitcher in Omaha is even more impressive maybe than we take at first light, because like Noe Cameron's numbers in AAA, they were good. They were not great. They did not say this guy's going to come up and be an above average major league starter right away. Like, I mean, his numbers in the major leagues this year are better than his numbers were in AAA. In AAA, 33 innings, 24 hits, 13 walks, 38 strikeouts. He had a 3.31 ERA, and his FIP was around there as well. In fact, probably a little higher. In the majors, he has a 2.08 ERA, and he has fewer hits per 9 innings, fewer walks per 9 innings, fewer homers per 9 innings, more strikeouts. Actually, no, fewer strikeouts. That's the way. Fewer strikeouts. But the point is, like, Noah Cameron's pitched better than we probably could have expected. I was Steven Cruz's biggest fan, and he's been better than even I expected. Right? Like, so that is part of it. That the same effect, which is making the hitter struggle, may be a reason to take some of the pitching down in AAA more seriously. I mean, I was disappointed they sent Jonathan Bolin down. I think Jonathan Bolin could be a very important reliever for this team in the second half of the season. So that's part of it. And then part of it, like you said, is it's not just one guy struggling. It's everybody struggling. I mean, the thing about bringing Jac Caglianone into the lineup now is that the top 2/3 of the lineup, I think Quatraro has hit upon a formula that he likes a lot and has actually been very stable for the last 2 weeks or so, right? India, Witt, this new lineup with Michael Garcia batting third, right? He's got India, Witt, Garcia, and then he's got Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, Caglianone. That's the top 6 hitters of the lineup pretty much every day. And then Isbell's usually the 9 hitter. He had a day off, I think, this week, but normally he's a 9. So it's really 7 and 8 that's flip-flopping between Drew Waters, Nick Lofton, Freddie Fermin, John Rave occasionally. But the lineup has become pretty stable. Quatraro has figured out who he wants to start. He has 2 spots which are in flux. He has, he tries to use his bench a lot. He's got Tyler Tolbert coming off as a pinch runner, obviously. But the players are being allowed to perform. It's just they're not performing. Like, that top 6 is very stable. All 6 of those guys belong in a major league lineup. But, with the exception of Garcia and maybe Vinny at this point, none of them are having a great year. And some of them are having truly disappointing seasons, right? Jonathan India quietly has been quite a disappointment at this point. Like, if he had a 360 OBP instead of a 320 OBP, this team would probably have won 2 or 3 more games. So,
I agree wholeheartedly with that. The problem is you messed with multiple variables. And so he's now getting bad intel from Alexult, and that's the fault? Is it because he's been roaming around in the outfield, someplace he's not comfortable playing? They've tried to switch that back and take that out of the equation. And go,
I was going to say, lately, at least, he's been, this is your position, and it's the position you're most comfortable with. They're trying to eliminate all of those, variables, like you said.
And so, but, look, I brought this up and I had some people say to me, which they're media folks, and I can hear it coming straight from the Royals organization, and that's great. I've talked to the Royals organization. I know what they think of Alexult Malton. I know what they think of the philosophy and everything. That's great. I'm now aware of it. Doesn't make them right. Certainly more qualified to be right than I am. I will grant that. And so I always defer, generally will defer to whatever the ball club says. But when everyone, the new thing is that like, well, he's about swing decisions and all that. Like he's about results. Like I'm tired. Like it's the one kind of spot where there's a little bit of the Dayton Moore era. It's like, why? No, he's there. Fine. He's like I've had people say, well, everybody's kind of got their own swing coach with their agent. And so he doesn't really do that. Fine. I don't care what he does. I don't care if he sprinkles fairy dust on their bats at night when they're not at the ballpark. I don't give a flying monkey's ass what it is he does. I don't care. And everybody, when I'm like, hey, you kind of got this issue, I get this. Well, he does. I don't want to like, you're in the get it right business. You are in, like, as a Major League Baseball hitting coach, your team needs to hit. Everyone's heard us beat the drum for Kevin Seitzer a million different times. That man knows what he's doing. You didn't go down that road. There is no excuse. You went out and got a leadoff hitter to bat leadoff. I don't care what else is going on. He's not putting up the numbers, right? Like I'm tired. I'm frustrated with. It seems to be the one thing that they're kind of just not. Are we data driven or not? Because the data says they're not hitting well enough, right? And you make a great point, Randy. We should not expect them to be everything that they are at AAA, but we shouldn't expect them to have the problems that they have. Everybody comes up and sucks immediately. Like nobody comes up breaking. Why?
Right. Or they do, and then they stop hitting.
AAA. Fine, fire that guy. I don't care, but solve it. And I think part of it. Sorry, and I'll shut up. No, because I recognize you were going to go somewhere, and I just jumped on it again. But it's kind of like I was kind of on this kick this week. I was talking. And somebody said something to me, and it was about the ballpark. The ballpark. I'm so goddamn tired of hearing about Kauffman Stadium and it's the ballpark. Like they have made it this excuse for everybody, right? You can't hit the ball out. Curtis looked it up. The ballpark is 10th in opponents' home runs. Right now, that factors in your pitching contributes to that, right? So if your pitching is good, then that those home runs are going to be down. But he's like, they act like it's the hardest thing, but other teams come in and it's not the hardest ballpark to hit the ball out of. And but they will got all this room. You got to. Well, how come nobody? Then somebody fine. They don't hit for as much power, but somebody hit 325. Okay, nobody does. So it's like I think they've just. I don't know what it is, but. Whatever the culture of the hitting, it sucks. It really sucks. And they just it frustrates the hell out of me that they seem to make it much more difficult than it needs to be.
So, I mean, to piggyback on your point, this is something I don't think fans appreciate at all, which is Kauffman Stadium is good for offense. It increases run scoring. Over the last 10 years, at least, the Royals and their opponents score more runs combined at Kauffman Stadium than they do when the Royals play on the road. It's not a good park for home runs, but it is a great park and has always been a great park for batting average. The combination of the wide outfield allowing balls to just roll and roll, like it's a good park for doubles, an exceptional park for triples. All right, there is a reason why the one category the Royals will frequently be at the top of the charts on is triples. Kauffman Stadium is a fantastic place to hit triples because balls they go down the line and the way they bounce off the corners and then they roll under the wall along the edge and it's hard for the outfielder to pick it up. It's a great park for triples, but the batting eye has always made it a great park for batting average. So if the Royals were last in the league in home runs but led the league in batting average. And then because you've led the league in batting average, you should probably be near the top of the league in on-base percentage, right? Then they would still be scoring a lot of runs. The Royals, the 2014 to 2015, the 2014 Royals were dead last in the American League and maybe the majors, I can't remember, in home runs. But the offense was functional because they were very good at batting average. And the 2015 team, obviously, one of the all-time great contact teams, the lowest strikeout rates relative to the league in Major League history. That offense, it worked. This offense doesn't work because it has no power but also doesn't have a great batting average. They're okay. They have around a league average in batting average. It's not the disaster everything else is. But this is a ballpark that helps you a lot in batting average. So don't give me this crap about the ballpark. It's not the ballpark.
You know what else? It's like just the cold. If I got to listen, I don't want to debating it. If I got to hear one more time while watching the broadcast, like he's up there to hit from Rex Hudler, like the 1978 called and once their analysis back. I mean, I'm if the organization, no one will bother to wander down to the booth and be like, stop saying this stuff. Like, do we really think they're all in on base percentage? We know that they've always had this problem, and we know that they're equipping Daniel Mack and his staff. We know it's the first thing we've talked to Daniel Mack. He's aware of how important it is and everything, but like just the whole organization that like on the broadcast, they sit there and act like, oh, it's great. The guy's swinging out of his shoes on a pitcher that's walked the last three guys. I'd be like, just the inane ridiculousness. And I'm like, I don't know. That drives me crazy. I'm like, why isn't somebody like, no, that's not good? It's
well,
like, really
today, what happened? They were up 2-0 in the seventh inning. Seth Lugo gave up a double. They pulled him with one out. Angel Serpa came in. He got the first guy out. Then he walked a batter. Then he walked another batter. And yeah, you could say, we always say Angel Serpa walked a batter. You could also say the batter took a walk, yes. Right? It is a two-way street. And actually, one of the fundamental basics of analytics is that the batter has more to do with the likelihood of a walk than the pitcher does. Right? The wildest pitcher in baseball might walk, 3 times. If we're looking, take out the very extreme, but like the 90th percentile and the 10th percentile, the range might be 2 to 3 times as often that you draw a walk. With hitters, it's like 5 or 6. Right? You take Salvador Perez, you pick a random Royal at one end, and then you get the truly most patient hitters in baseball on the other end, the Juan Sotos of the world. There's like a 5 or 6 times different, 5 to 600%. So you could just as easily say the Padres came back and put themselves in a position to tie the game on a 2-run single because they worked 2 walks. And I just don't know how many times that has to happen before, the Royals. I think the Royals front office knows, the coaching staff knows that, the announcers, it would be nice for them to acknowledge. It would be nice if the Royals did their hitters could do what other teams always seem to do to them. And so today was just yet another example. Walks matter. I mean, I don't know how you watched the American League Division Series last year where the Yankees narrowly beat the Royals in a 4-game series and drew 27 walks to the Royals 7 in the series. Almost 4 times as many walks in a series for the team, not individual players, the whole team. 4 times as many walks as the Royals. And even with that, they barely won. So yes. Do I know the ins and outs of what a hitting coach does? Can I analyze the effectiveness of the hitting coach by watching him give instruction? No, I've never claimed to. One of the criticisms of being of analytics from when I started this 30 years ago, when the industry didn't take us seriously at all, is that we don't know how the sausage is made. We don't know what's going on, right? And what the industry didn't understand at the time is what they thought was a bug was actually a feature. What they thought was, this is a weakness, is actually a strength. I don't care. Not to say I don't care what they're doing, because obviously I want the results to be positive, but the ins and outs of how they get to the end result are not what I'm analyzing. What I'm analyzing is the final result.
Yeah.
I don't care how the sausage is made. I care how it tastes. If it tastes bad, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing I don't need to know what you did to know it's not working. I don't know exactly what Alexult is doing. I don't know exactly what Kevin Seitzer has done, but I can see the results. The results have not been good for several years. They're really not good this year. It may be the reason why they missed the playoffs. It's a problem.
Yeah.
They need to, and they need to just acknowledge the results are bad. And if the results are bad without a clear, a clear explanation, excuse, that is not going to be repeatable, and it happens multiple years in a row, then you have a problem with the process, right? I can only judge, we trust the process if the results justify the process. They've had enough time to show us, to say that the process will yield results. It has not yielded results. They have essentially the worst offense, certainly the worst offense of any contender in baseball. And after years of doing it this way, it's time for a change.
I don't like, Brent Rooker going and suddenly figuring it out at his next stop, and Ryan O'Hearn suddenly becoming a very productive guy at his next stop either. When does that land on someone's desk?
I mean, Rooker, I'll almost give him a pass because they didn't have him long enough. It hurts because he would be such a perfect fit for this team the last couple of years. The Ryan O'Hearn thing alone should really have been a look in the mirror moment for this organization. Because he came through the organization, he had success right. That's the thing. It's not even that they don't have success when they come up. Sometimes they have success right away, and then they can't sustain it.
Yeah, which was him.
Him in spades. I mean, you had a great rookie year, and then he was like one of the worst players in baseball for the next 3 years because he couldn't hit for crap, and he played first base and DH. The second he leaves, he's like practically a cult hero in Baltimore at this point, right? Yeah. Like that is it's a sample size of one, but that's one hell of a sample. So yes, we have many. There are many ways for us to come around to the fact that whatever the Royals are doing on the hitting side, it's not working. I'm not going to sit here and continue to point fingers. I'm not going to say what the problem is. I'm saying they have a problem and they need to acknowledge it. And the only way to acknowledge it truly is to do something about it.
We'll talk about the bullpen here in a second after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. David Starnes, AllState Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, AllState Insurance. All right, let's talk a little bit about the bullpen. Lucas Erceg has had some struggles. Steven Cruz has been stepping up. How do you stack it up now?
I mean, so much of what we saw this weekend, but really the last couple of weeks with the Royals bullpen not pitching nearly as well as it did the first 2 months, it all comes down to Lucas Erceg he was such he was the fulcrum. He might not have been the closer, but he was the fulcrum around which this entire bullpen was built. And he is not right now. Right? I just think if you look at his performance going back to May 21st, so the last 3 outings he had before he went on the injured list with a back issue, and he came back quickly. I mean, he was, back on the mound within 2.5 weeks. He had made a rehab, I think, assignment down in Omaha, and then was back quickly after that. So he can pitch, but counting today, his line doesn't look terrible. An inning, a third, a hit, a walk, 2 strikeouts, no runs. But of course, he came in the first batter he saw, gave up a game-tying 2-run single to, and then the next inning, Caglianone saves him from a 2-run home run. But even with a superficially good outing today, since May 21st, 8 innings, 14 hits, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts, and 2 home runs from a guy who had never given up a regular season home run as a member of the Royals before this stretch. He's not right. Now, I'm not saying that he has to go back on the injured list or anything like that. Hopefully he will work himself back to 100%. His pitch velocity, his fastball velocity is down about half a mile to a mile over the last month, certainly since he came back. So that does concern me a little bit. But I assume that this is just a matter of time before he gets right. But in the meantime, it's having some knock-on effects because, Carlos Estevez is good. He's not great. I'm always worried every time he takes the mound still. He's the kind of closer that I love to have a multiple run lead when he comes in.
Yeah.
Like on Friday, he comes in with a 2-run lead, immediately gives up a home run, and then goes 1, 2, 3 and gets out of it. He's the sort of closer I'm terrified has a good season in the save department, and he's on pace for he might break the Royals record for saves in a season, and then you put him in a 1-run lead in a playoff game and it goes to pot. Like I could see that happening certainly, but pairing him with an absolutely dominant Lucas Erceg, it's fine. If Erceg's not dominant, then it's a problem. And now, the Royals have been struggling to find a kind of that reliable third guy to pair with those two. I really do think Steven Cruz has moved to the point now where he's the third most reliable. And frankly, right now with Erceg, he might be the guy you might want to put him in the 8th inning role until Erceg proves he's completely healthy. His command, he's walked 8 guys in 29 innings. This is a guy who was walking 7 or 8 batters per 9 innings in the minor leagues until middle of last season. He throws strikes. He's throwing 98, 99 consistently. His slider is very tough to hit. He has the confidence now to just throw strikes, get ahead, and then dare them to lay off his slider, and opposing batters can't. So I do feel like the pieces are there for a really good back end of the bullpen. The middle right now, Angel Serpa is doing a lot better than he did early in the year, but is still struggles with command. He's still a guy you like in the 5th or 6th inning. You don't like him later than that. Daniel Lynch is sort of the same thing. Like Lynch is what he is. He's useful. He can throw multiple innings, but he doesn't have the command that to get away with good but not great stuff. His walk rate's too high, and what we saw today. Serpa came in, could not get out of it, needed to be bailed out and wasn't. Lynch came in a tie game in the 9th and had to be bailed out by John Schreiber. And, with I think the runners on 2nd and 3rd and 1 out, so they had to play the infield in. And, if it hadn't been such a bad situation, Schreiber got the ground ball he wanted, but it wasn't enough. So, they're basically one reliever short right now, and that reliever is Lucas Erceg. If Erceg gets healthy, I think the bullpen will be fine. I don't know why they brought Sam Long back. He wasn't exactly lighting up the charts in Omaha before they called him up, but he's back, so I guess we'll find out. But I will feel better when Jonathan Bolin is back on this team, because I think Bolin gives them another good right-handed relief option. So I don't think the bullpen is a problem per se, but it's not the solution it was a month ago.
No, I agree, and hopefully, I think you're right. Erceg's the key, and hopefully he gets right. I don't think there's much more to to look for, unless the unicorn that is Hunter Harvey suddenly comes around at some point. We'll
Miracles
see.
Happen.
Let's talk real quick about I'll get your thoughts on the Royals getting upset about this. Mark Healy, who writes a blog called Gotham Baseball, basically writes about New York baseball. He's a former AP writer. He is an editor for a local newspaper there in New York. He has a column. I brought him on the show, and he said, listen, I do a little thing where I call it What I'm Hearing, and I just call around people I know in the game, and I write what I'm hearing. And he wrote, I'm hearing Royals ownership has told J.J. Picollo to start thinking about trading some veteran talent. With that in mind, I certainly hope that Seth Lugo is on the Mets' radar. He's certainly going to be attractive for many teams. Mets shouldn't wait to inquire.
Soren, are you aware of the term the Streisand Effect?
No, do tell.
Oh, okay. Well then. So the Streisand Effect, I'll read it directly from Wikipedia. The Streisand Effect is an unintended consequence of attempts to hide, remove, or censor information where the effort instead increases public awareness of the information. So where this comes from, in 2003, some environmental website published a series of photos of the California coast that was designed to show like coastal erosion. In one of these photographs, Barbra Streisand's mansion in Malibu could be seen. Barbra Streisand sued the photographer and the website for $50 million for violation of privacy. The lawsuit sought to remove, quote, image 3850, an aerial photograph in which Streisand's mansion was visible, from the publicly available California Coastal Records project. At the time she issued the lawsuit, this photograph had been viewed online 6 times, twice by her lawyers. When the lawsuit was filed, more than 420,000 people visited the site over the following month. Hence the term, the Streisand Effect.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about a picture, that the picture online was your mansion. Nobody had even looked at the picture. Nobody cared. I'm sure Mark Healy is a good dude, a decent guy. I have no reason to think that, he didn't have a reason to tweet what he did, I don't think he was just making things up out of thin air. But what really struck me about the story was just, what a nothing burger it was. Like, they're thinking about, but for one thing, like, so even if it was completely true, like, yeah, the Royals were under 500. Like, they should be prepared for all possibilities. If they went 6-14 between that point and the All-Star break, they should probably be thinking about selling. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think it's a story. Right. So I would never have known about the story in the first place had Sam Mellinger not responded on Twitter to the original tweet. That's how I found out about it. And then obviously you had the guy on your show. You would not have had him on your show.
Well, I couldn't believe a vice president of the Royals. This is none true. 0%. Please kindly stop making things up. You have to know everyone in baseball to be able to say that there's 0% truth to it. If you read what he said, I'm hearing the Royals ownership. He didn't say this is a fact, but there is an element. Look, I would not have put this out. Like, if I heard this from somebody, I would have called JJ Piccolo or texted him and said, is this true? Which I did. And he said, it's absolutely not true. And he was irritated by it, right? I have no doubt the entire organization was irritated. By the way, I don't think Sam was the only one. I think there were others that thought this is ridiculous. I think the organization championed what Sam did, by the way. I don't think he's in hot water. Right. I think he represents the feeling of the organization. And but it says that to start thinking about trading some veterans. Then he mentions that, hey, I'm sure they looked at this and said, they're trying to trade Seth Lugo. Later on, Matt Quatraro said something about, like, well, I went down and I talked to Salvador Perez. Like, did Salvy call and go, hey, are you trading me? Or did he go to Salvy because, hey, you're the veteran, go tell these guys? First of all, how many guys would have even known it if they didn't make it a big deal?
Well, the other thing is, like you said, you have to parse the tweet carefully, because he says not just that I'm hearing that this is happening. I'm not saying it is, but also he then says, with that in mind, I certainly hope that Seth Lugo is on the Mets radar. He's not saying Seth Lugo is going to be traded to the Mets. This is a Mets blogger. This would be like me saying, reading a report that some player on, the Marlins is on the market, and be like, I'd really like to see that guy on the Royals. I'm not reporting that guy is being traded to the Royals. This is a guy saying Seth Lugo would fit our team well.
Right.
So, like, I don't see what was the point of responding to this in the first place.
Yeah. First of all, a tweet is not a published report. It's a tweet. Okay. It's not, it did not run in a news. This did not run in a newspaper. It was not, it is kind of, like I said, it's kind of an unknown. I would not have written that. I would have followed up and said, okay, well, let me confirm this. And then when it wasn't confirmed, I wouldn't have written it. All right. But people write this stuff all the time.
Exactly.
And you talk to people, what do I think happened? I think he probably knows the scout. Maybe for the Royals, maybe for another team, who just offhandedly is just kind of BSing back and forth. And what is this guy? Who cares? He's writing in New York. Who in Kansas City is going to care about this, whatever? However, it made its way. Kansas City, it did. And I think they're probably like, well, I said they ought to be thinking about it. I mean, I don't know if they really are. I was saying that they ought to be thinking about it. Well, but no, what you said to me was that the ownership, well, I'm saying ownership should be telling them to think about, like, I'm sure there's some kind of, if you got whoever the principals were, I do believe somebody said this to Mark Healy. Is it a Royal scout? Is it a scout from another team that talks to Royal scouts? He said it was somebody with direct knowledge of the Royals, or I can't remember how he put it. And so, like, I don't love that part, but anyway, it's just that the going out, laugh out loud, zero truth to it. And it. I mean,
yeah. I just wonder if, because they are in the process of trying to get a stadium, if they're just like hypersensitive to any insinuation that they're not 100% pot committed to making this team a contender every single year. And look, I get the sentiment, but it's just like, sometimes you just got to learn to pick your battles. Like, this just was not worth.
No,
it was not worth responding to, not worth acknowledging. Like you said, stuff happens like this all the time. Just let it go.
Well, it shows, if I am reading the situation right, and Sam is a representation of the anger that the entire organization felt, either John Sherman, JJ Picollo, Matt Quatraro, the veterans on this team, somewhere in that or all of it, I believe that there was frustration. High level of frustration. I don't think Sam Mellinger's the only guy that was pissed about this.
I do like your theory, though, that maybe the issue was that one of the players, for whatever reason, one of the players on the team now, I don't know how this would be the case with the Mets blogger, but became aware of this, and it was enough that made them worry, and the organization had to. And maybe in that case, they're like, we'll take the PR hit that we know we're going to get in order to make a point to our players that this is complete crap. That would be the one explanation that I'd be like, okay, I get it. And maybe in the long run, that's what was best for the team. Because otherwise, I just don't feel like you don't need to respond to every little thing like this.
Yeah. Here, and we'll wrap on this and we'll get to one other thing here. Twofold. One, you can't go around saying there's no truth to it and it. When the owner of the team said, we're going to build in Jackson County, Missouri on the stadium, and he's now dancing around real estate deals in Kansas and in Clay County, which is not Kansas City, Missouri, for those that are Royals fans that don't live here. You can't go around with that attitude and venom. And I know what we thought we were going to be in Jackson County. Yeah, but that's not true. So, like, there are all these circumstances where, like, if you're going to throw stones at someone, you got to be perfect yourself. And the Royals aren't. And so, like, you bring up the stadium thing, and that's the thing that I think is interesting is John Sherman said he will build in Jackson County, Missouri, and maybe it ultimately will be there, right? But he is not living up to what he said. So should everybody be firing out shots at John Sherman? I don't think so, right? But I'm just saying that's why you don't throw stones, because it's up to everybody's interpretation. And then the other thing is, if they are this upset, get used to it. Like, this is what happens. This is what comes with expectations. You had expectations on this year. You were a playoff team last year. You're not this year. This is what it feels like. Like, this is them being in some pressure. You know what I mean? Like, they sucked JJ Picollo's first year, but they knew, all the guys there knew it wasn't any of their fault, right? Or not none of their fault, but it wasn't their regime that did it all. Well, now this is them, right? This is on them. They're disappointing a little bit this year, and they're not reacting well. I think that's pretty easy to see. So, anyway, real quick, Seth Lugo, since his name was brought up here, if you're not going to be shopping him because you're in it and you're going for it, should you be extending him?
I mean, if you can, the issue here obviously is, would he be willing to sign an extension mid-season or not? Or does he want to hit free agency? And if he's willing to sign, like, you're going to have to make an offer so good that he's willing to forego the potential of even seeing what his market is. Now, that's already happened with Michael Wacha, right? Because the Royals were able to sign Wacha just days after the World Series. So it was like before he really had a chance. I don't know if he had a general idea of what he might get on the market, but Michael Wacha was willing to come back, without getting into a full-on bidding war with other teams. But even with Wacha, he waited until after the season was over. So, like, if you could get him signed now, great. I do think, though, that, we're probably looking at It's not even the amount of money because they're paying him what, 15 million this year, 16 million.
Yeah, and I want to be real clear here. Elizabeth says he has a player option for next year.
Yeah.
Yes, but he won't exercise like that.
Yeah.
That's the point. Is the way he's pitching right now.
He's
not going to
a
take
free agent for all
$8
intents and purposes,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's basically, so if he gets hurt, if he blows out his elbow, he can pick up his option. He's protected, but the Royals are not keeping him for 15 million. But to me, let's say it's 25 million a year. I don't think that's the issue because they're paying him 15, a $10 million bump. I think the Royals can handle it. It's the number of years for a guy who is 35 years old already. Are you willing to go say 3 and 75 for Seth Lugo? Because I think that's what it would take.
Well, that's right? What Jeff Passan. Those are the numbers Jeff Passan said.
Okay. Well, then,
he said exactly. He said the Nathan Eovaldi deal is where.
Okay. So 3 and 75. I mean, that's Walker's what, 3 and 54. So it's the same length of time, but $7 million a year more. And he's 2 years older. He'll be 3 years older, when he signs it than Walker was when he signed. So Walker signed for his age 33 through 35 seasons. Lugo would be ages 36 to 38. Now I've said that, he almost reminds me of like late career Zach Greinke in terms of the repertoire, the results, etc. Greinke was still at ages 36 to 38 was still a really good pitcher. So maybe it's worthwhile, right? You also forego, and this is not a huge thing, but not a small thing. If he resigns, you forego the ability to get a draft pick for him, right? You would get a top 35 pick if he walks away in free agency. If you make him, if you offer him arbitration or the qualifying offer, which is I think going to be around 22-23 million for 1 year. In all likelihood, if you offer, if he takes it, that's the best case scenario, really. So yes. I don't think he will take that. So the point is, if he doesn't, then you're looking at getting a top, essentially a supplemental first round pick. And look, those don't always work out. I go back to like 2018 when the Royals got supplemental first round picks for Eric Hosmer leaving, Lorenzo Cain leaving. They drafted Jackson Kowar. That was a bust. They also drafted Daniel Lynch. It hasn't been terrible, but probably is not the reason you let a guy go.
Well, those picks, I think you got to look at that and say those picks allowed him to throw numbers at it. So you can't.
Right. And the third pick, they had a third one, right? Because then that's a good point, because then they had a third supplemental first round year because they had the competitive balance pick they get every year, and with the third one they hit Chris Bubich.
Yeah,
like a 1 in 3 chance of getting a Chris Bubich. Granted, it took 6 years for it to really pay off. So maybe you say, well, that's not worth it. I'm just saying it's something you have to consider. Is it worth foregoing that pick and giving him 3 years and $75 million? I would be inclined, if that's what the price is. I just worry about what he's going to be at the end of that deal. I think he's still a very good pitcher. I mean, today was a fantastic start. After coming back from his finger injury, his last couple of starts have been very, very good. I'd love to keep him around, but I just worry if you can get him for 2 and 50, I'd probably just do that. But 3 years and that kind of money, I worry that you're going to regret that at the end.
With half the season still to go, the reason I bring it up is I wonder if now to put that kind of guarantee while he's still got to stay healthy for half a year, would he be willing to make it, 3 for 70? Would he be willing to make it 2 for 48? Could you get a little bit of savings, and if you could, do it now?
The fact that he has that player option is, gives him some leverage. You know what I mean? Like he knows that worst case scenario, like you said, you're always worried about like potential for some sort of major injury. He's getting 15 million next year, no matter what. So I doubt you'll get him on 2 years, but you might be able to bring that 3 years, 75 down to 70, 66, something like that. That might be worth it because again, you're already paying him 15. He's proven now yet again that converting from the bullpen to the rotation, he's had no issue with durability. We gave you 200 innings last year. He won't get to 200 this year, but he might get you to 170 or whatever. So I think he's a good bet to be a valuable pitcher. He probably won't be a Cy Young contender by the end, but he will be at least an average. He'll be an innings eater, if nothing else, by the end. So if you can do it, but 75 for 3 is just a little rich for my blood.
Yeah, it's such a big number, but he's been so good, and he's the kind of guy that seems like he can last.
You go out and try and find the next.
He didn't have 1,000 innings in his career.
Yeah. I just wonder if you're better off trying to find the next Seth Lugo and throwing that kind of money at him instead.
Yeah, I mean I think it's also has to do with like, are you going to get Bubich signed?
Right. Yeah. To me, that's the priority. Exactly.
But if you're like, we have no shot at that, then getting Lugo locked in gives you some stability. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Listen, you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like David Starnes, AllState Insurance. Absolutely fantastic, helping me out with my insurance. Thank you to David Starnes, AllState Insurance. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warranty for more than 30 years. They've been making parking lots safer here in Kansas City. Focus on your business. Avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Go to Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Find them online at gannasphalt.com. And, of course, Whataburger for a limited time. Get the Pico de Gallo burger, the sweet and spicy bacon burger. My favorite, the patty melt. They've also got the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. Wash it all down with the banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day and serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. Check them out right now if you are hungry. For the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.